Hey Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Starting at pole position is Cal Weathers, with Casey Corner to his outside. Row 2 has two-time Piston Cup champion Jeff Gorvette and the mean orange car, Joey Logierno. Row 3 has Greg People, who won 3 races ago, and the Rocket Ryan Newcar. Row 4 has Juan Pablo Montoya and Matt Karzitz, the 2003 Piston Cup champion. Row 5 has Kurt Buschtire, don't say the bad word, and Lightning McQueen. Row 6 has Speedy Comet and Denny Carlin. I wonder how many laps Denny Carlin will lead today. Row 8 has Brick Yardley, the 2008 Florida 500 winner, and Tony Gasworth. Row 8 has Bobby Swift and David Rudikar. I wonder what they're doing in this row. Row 9 has Brick Hicks and Mike Yankee Jr. Both are severely underperforming. Row 10 has Kyle Buschtire and Dale Earnhardt Jr. to his outside. Row 11 has David Raycar and Jamie McCarry, who has surprised everyone this season. Row 12 has the RCR teammates Jeff Burnton and Kevin Karvik, who is second in points right now. Row 13 has Martin Carrix Jr. and Brad Karslowski to his outside. Row 14 has Clint Bokar and Mark Carton, who had 5 wins last season. Row 15 has Phil Tankson and Todd Marcus, who needs to stop skipping qualifying. Row 16 has Carl Edwards and T.G. Castlenut to his outside. Row 17 has Chip Gearings, who has qualified for all 29 races so far this season, and Jimmy Cables to his outside. Row 18 has Slate Granger and Casey Gears, neither of which qualified last race. Row 19 has David Gillicar and Reb Meeker to his outside. I wonder what they're going to do. Row 20 has Rex Revler and Ernie Gearson, who's been racing since 1973. Row 21 has Maury Clutchburn, making his 893rd start in the Piston Cup this race, and Jack DePost to his outside. And starting in 43rd is Doug Throttleman, who is Team Mood Springs' answer to Jeff Burnton. And these 5 cars, among many others, failed to qualify for this race. Cal Weathers would lead for the first 2 laps of the race before he'd lose the lead to Casey Corner, who would lead for the next 25 laps, but on lap 27, Jeff Gorvette would take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 55, where Cal Weathers would be back in the lead. He'd lead all the way until lap 80 before Tony Gasworth would take the lead from him. 15 laps later, Tony Gasworth would lose the lead to Jeff Gorvette, who would lead for 3 more laps before Brick Yardley, the other 24 car, would take the lead from him. He'd lead for 10 laps before Tony Gasworth would be back in the lead. He'd lead until lap 145, where Kevin Karvik would take the lead from him. 1 lap later, Kevin Karvik would lose the lead to his teammate, Jeff Burnton, who would lead for 3 laps before Tony Gasworth would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 155, but Kevin Karvik would retake the lead, leading until lap 171. Tony Gasworth would once again retake the lead, and he'd lead all the way until lap 187, where Kyle Buschtire would be 17th as of that lap. Where he wrecks? Who does he wreck? Rex Revler, Reb Meeker, Brick Hicks, Ernie Gearson, Jack DePost, Maury Clutchburn, and Casey Corner. What, you mean yellow car? And Greg People would take the lead after the restart and lead until lap 189, where Jamie McCarry would take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 195, where of course Lightning McQueen would take the lead. He'd lead until lap 207, where Greg People would retake the lead. He'd lead for 30 laps before Carl Edwards, his teammate, would take the lead from him. He'd lead for just 2 laps before Greg People would retake the lead. He'd lead until lap 290 for 51 laps! How? Lightning McQueen would take the lead on lap 290 and lead all the way until lap 325, where Tony Gasworth would take the lead from him, leading until lap 349, where Cal Weathers would take the lead from him. He'd lead for 6 more laps before Greg People would retake the lead. He'd lead for 9 more laps before Kevin Karvik would take the lead from him. He'd lead for 5 laps, but then Lightning McQueen would use the wall to pass Kevin Karvik, and he would lead the final 31 laps to win the 2010 Spearmint 400, with Greg Beeple finishing second this race, Kevin Carvick third, Tony Gasworth fourth, and Jeff Gorvette rounding out the top 5. And here's the top 20 of the race, with Carl Edwards, Matt Karseth, Cal Weathers, Ryan Newcar, and Todd Marcus rounding out the top 10. And I do not get how Denny Carlin finished 12th. Maybe it's due to the fact that he is inconsistent. And Chip Gearings gets yet another top 20 finish. And the last car to finish in the top 20 is Martin Carrix Jr., just ahead of Kyle Busch-Tire, the mean yellow car, who finished only one position ahead of Dale Earnhardt Jr. And why are some cars continuously underperforming, like Brick Yardley and Mike Yankee Jr.? But Slate Granger would be the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 36th this race. And here is the top 20 in points, where Lightning McQueen is still over 700 points ahead of Kevin Carvick in second. And Jamie McCarry has been in the top 20 for a solid number of races at this point. And Martin Carrix Jr. is still keeping Phil Tankson out of the top 20.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
How is Lightning McQueen this dominant? He's already won the majority of the races this season. But it would be a stretch for him to win the Piston Cup by more than 1,000 points, because Kevin Carvick is also having a good season, despite being over 700 points behind the leader. And how is the 2003 Piston Cup champion Matt Karseth not leading laps this season? It's only been 7 years! And also, the Busch-Tire brothers need to stop being mean cars. And the 30th race of the 2010 Piston Cup season will be coming out tomorrow. Unfortunately, the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine is still going on, and the Ukrainian people just want to live in peace and have freedom, as well as have a power source, so that they're not in the cold or in the dark. But why are these basic necessities not being met for the Ukrainian people? Because of an unjustified war started by the tyrant and bully Vladimir Putin, who is not just bullying Ukrainians, but also Russians to fight in this unjustified war. Does Putin not realize that Russia is the biggest country on Earth? You already have enough land of your own, and we at the hashtag KBullets YouTube channel will continue to stand with Ukraine. Slava Ukrainie, Heroyam Slava! Nechai Швеція дарує Україні перемога!